For millions across the East Coast, Wawa isn't just a store, it's a habit. The smell of hot coffee at dawn, the soft clink of the touchscreen as you order a sandwich, the grab-and-go milk before work. It's comfort wrapped in convenience, a piece of everyday life that feels too familiar to ever question. Families trust it. Truckers depend on it. College students practically live on it. But that comfort has just been shaken. Because while customers kept sipping and snacking, regulators uncovered something unsettling behind those cheerful labels. Routine inspections turned up foreign materials inside bottled drinks, traces of contamination in snack packs, and even mislabeling in past meals that put vulnerable consumers at risk. So, today we're breaking down the 5 Wawa foods you should stop eating right now until verified safe again. If one of these items is in your fridge, you might already be holding the next recall notice. 1. Wawa Strawberry Lemonade. Wawa Strawberry Lemonade. The bright pink bottle that looks harmless under a noon sun starts with a hiss. Condensation ribbons down the smooth plastic citrus scent in the air, and a driver rolls out of the parking lot toward a long afternoon. It feels like routine, almost a tiny celebration in a day of errands. The bottle nestles into a cup holder, the first sweet sip promises ease, and the road opens. That everyday ease is exactly why this story matters. Here's the turn. That same 16-ounce bottle is now on an official recall list. Regulators flag potential foreign material inside limited lots, and the classification is a sober one, Class 2. No panic, no rumor, just a verified alert that asks for care. The label looks familiar. The color is cheerful and the cap still snaps like always, yet the guidance is simple and firm. Check it, match it, and act. Meanwhile, inspectors trace the path backward. Samples are pulled at the production facility. Chillers checked lines, examined logs, matched to specific date codes. When anomaly signals appear in testing, a small team starts the paper chase that most shoppers never see. They connect the dots between filler line time windows, pallet tags, and where those pallets traveled after loading. In the bulletin, the company lists the hallmark details that matter at home. The size is 16 ounce, the product name is Wawa Strawberry Lemonade, and the code date to watch is November 7th, 2025. Soon after the first notices go, live store teams begin the unglamorous work of scanning shelves and coolers. This is how an abstract headline becomes a concrete action. Staff members roll carts, pull affected bottles, and post signs at the point of sale. By contrast, your job as a consumer is far simpler. Open the fridge door, read the wording on the front panel, turn the bottle to find the date code, and decide. If the match is there, the safest choice is not to drink it. Discard the bottle or bring it back to the store for a refund. That is recall compliance in its clearest form. Scope questions always arrive next. Which states? The recall language names 4: Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and Maryland. Those geographies help viewers anchor the story, but the better anchor is the specific identifier on your bottle. Recalls are designed like precision tools. They aim to remove the right items without frightening people away from everything on the shelf. A limited lot can still be serious, especially for older adults or anyone with health vulnerabilities, and seriousness here does not wait for headlines. It waits for action at home. Let us be exact about what is known and what is not. The notice cites potential foreign object contamination, a careful phrase that covers anything not supposed to be in the beverage. It does not list the suspected material, and that restraint is common in early stages while teams verify scope. What matters is the triad you can confirm in roughly 30 seconds: product name, size, and code date. Add refrigeration to that checklist. This drink lives in the cold case, not on an ambient aisle. Only the 16-ounce bottle with that specific code date is implicated. Larger or smaller packages are not named in the notice. Eventually, the investigation narrows and the distribution curve flattens. Most of the affected bottles leave circulation within days. That is the ideal arc of a recall done correctly: rapid identification, targeted removal, clear guidance, cooperative refunds. The lesson for the rest of us is more personal. Trust is not a feeling that floats above facts. It is built, kept, and repaired through small practical steps we choose at home. You have probably seen this bottle in the cooler near the register, its color promising sugar and sunshine. Familiarity is persuasive, and brands understand that power. The point of a recall system is to break that spell the moment data says caution. No one is served by guesswork. No one loses by a careful pause. If an item matches the notice, the right move is to step away from convenience and choose safety. For clarity, a word on that classification. Class 2 signals a meaningful, manageable concern. Regulators believe the risk is real enough to act swiftly, yet not the sort that implies imminent catastrophic harm. The phrasing is technical because it is the language of process, not panic. Think of it as a seatbelt of public health, a preventative measure pulled snug the second something looks wrong. So here is your line in the sand. If a pink lemonade from Wawa is sitting behind the milk tonight and the date code reads November 7th, 2025, it is time to let it go. Safety is not dramatic. It is a quiet decision made at the kitchen counter, one bottle at a time. 2 Wawa strawberry milk. Per the latest federal notice, roughly 30 bottles of Wawa strawberry milk were removed from circulation under a Class 2 recall. The package size is 16 ounce. The flavor is strawberry, and the date to verify is October 6, 2025. Distribution covered 4 states, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and Maryland, with refrigerated pulls already in motion. The list is short, yet the signal is unmistakable traceability, located the right units quickly. To begin with, micro-lot recalls often start when a laboratory flags a single irregular reading inside a testing batch. A quality team then queries production records, hunts for the precise run window, and locks onto the barcode and the date code. On paper, that chain might look minor, a few cases here, a partial rack there. In practice, the restraint is intentional. The aim is not spectacle. The aim is surgical accuracy. Crucially, that accuracy is the everyday engine of food safety. A barcode is more than a graphic. It is the breadcrumb trail of a product's journey. A lot code is more than a string. It is a handshake between the filler line and the shelf. When plant logs, pallet tags, and store receipts converge on the same time window, decisions sharpen and action narrows. Noise gives way to clarity. From a household point of view, the process collapses into a 30-second checklist. You need only 3 things printed on the label: the product name Wawa strawberry milk, the size 16 ounce, and the date October 6, 2025. If all 3 align, the recommendation is plain: do not drink it. Discard the bottle or bring it back for a refund. Nothing dramatic, just a clean decision. That said, small should never be mistaken for unimportant. A micro lot can still intersect with moments that matter: a school lunch, a quick breakfast, a late shift treat. Risk is not only the count of units shipped, it is the proximity to people who may be more vulnerable. Older adults, pregnant people, and those with weakened immunity benefit most when vigilance is quiet, early, and exact. At the plant level, vigilance takes the form of logs and verifications. Sanitation entries are reviewed. Pasteurization charts are checked. Equipment histories are scanned for anything that could explain an out-of-bounds reading. One inconsistent data point can trigger targeted pull supplier queries or handling adjustments. Notably, a notice that mentions only a handful of bottles usually reflects discipline, not indifference, a system saying yes to evidence and no to noise. Zooming out proportion is the real lesson. Big recalls draw headlines. Small surgical ones often prevent the harm you never hear about. A handheld scanner beeps over a chilled shelf. A district email reaches managers before dawn. A closing time checklist catches the last stray unit. Each step is unglamorous and essential. The absence of panic is the product of design. For shoppers, pictures help more than paragraphs. Imagine a worker scanning a row of pints along a frosted rack. Imagine the dense lines of the barcode anchored beside the nutrition panel. Imagine a date stamp tucked near the bottle's shoulder. Those visuals shrink an abstract story into an easy action. You are not being asked to worry about everything inside a cooler. You are being asked to find one product, one size, one date, and act accordingly. Still trust wobbles after any recall, even a modest one. Trust, however, is not a feeling that floats above facts. It is a practice. Stores demonstrate it by removing what records demand they remove. Manufacturers demonstrate it by documenting, cooperating, and correcting. Families demonstrate it by checking labels and moving decisively when details line up. No rumors, no outrage, just the choreography of safety working as intended. Sooner rather than later, the tale of availability falls. Affected pints disappear from shelves, replacement stock fills gaps, and public notices remain posted for anyone who wants to double-check later. All told, your role stays compact and confident. Open the fridge, read the label, match the date, decide. Put simply, the headline here is not the word recall. The headline is the proof that the small gears of traceability are turning where you cannot see them, so the choice at your counter remains simple. For everyday shoppers, simplicity is the real service. Even so, attention still matters. If a strawberry-tinted pint with that October code is sitting behind the orange juice tonight, the safest move is to step past convenience and choose care. Sometimes safety is not about scale at all. It is about attention, the quiet kind that catches what most people never see. 3. Wawa HVD whole milk. When was the last time a pint of milk made you uneasy? Not the skim you keep for coffee, not the carton that lives near the eggs, but the simple whole kind that tastes like morning itself. You lift the cap, the kitchen is quiet, and the day begins without a second thought. Then a bulletin lands, and that tiny, faithful ritual starts to feel different. A recall notice names the product, the size and the date Wawa HVD, whole milk 16-ounce code, October 9th, 2025. It points to limited lots, a narrow window, on a filler line, a map of 4 states where those pints might have traveled. The language is dry by design, and that restraint is part of the safety architecture. The point is not to frighten every breakfast table. The point is to help the right households act quickly and precisely. From there, the story moves into the quiet machinery that most of us never see. A tanker arrives and backs to a bay. Stainless steel fittings meet gaskets with a practiced seal. Pasteurization systems reach temperature hold and release. Valve by valve, the milk moves through polished arteries until it descends into bottles that pass in even ranks beneath white light. Each bottle receives a cap, a date, and a future destination. The movement looks simple. It is anything but simple. In technical terms, this is a chain of control points designed to catch problems as early as possible. Sanitation cycles log their temperatures. Filters record their change intervals. Sensors pulse data that ends up in a line supervisor's screen. If a reading strays, the signal does not shout. It blinks. Someone notices. Someone checks a chart. Someone halts a subrun, marks a timestamp, and the trace begins. That is the difference between a rumor and a record. As a result, a recall can be both limited and serious. Limited because the logs allow investigators to bracket a precise run. Serious because the product is a staple that reaches children, older adults, and anyone whose health would be put at needless risk by a defect. You cannot see a foreign object the way you see a bruise on fruit. You cannot hear a problem in the faint hum of a refrigerator shelf. You rely on the integrity of a system that lives behind the scenes. Under scrutiny, even an ordinary bottle becomes a document. The label is the first paragraph. The date code is the second. The purchase location adds context, and the recall bulletin completes the frame. At the plant, the same bottle connects to a lot, log a time block on a filler line and the cleaning cycle that preceded it. Nothing in that web is dramatic, yet every strand matters when the right decision depends on 3 specific details printed in small type. Beyond that, there is the human rhythm of a distribution network adjusting in real time. A manager receives an alert before dawn. A driver moves a crate to the back room so it will not re-enter a shelf. A worker with a handheld scanner skims a row of cold pints, the device chirping quietly as barcodes roll by. On the floor, it feels like housekeeping. For a viewer at home, it shortens the task to a single motion: open the fridge, turn the bottle, read the code. At its core, the question is not whether milk is still trustworthy. It is whether we are willing to treat trust as a practice rather than a feeling. A practice looks like this: pay attention to the bulletin. Match the name, the size, and the date. Act without delay when the match appears. A feeling tries to argue with facts because routine is comfortable. Routine is not the metric. Precision is the metric. Consider how the supply chain and the home mirror one another. In the plant, clarity comes from documented steps that verify what happened. In the kitchen, clarity comes from a checklist that verifies what is in your hand. The plant has stainless valves and sensors. The home has light labels and a minute to spare. The plant removes doubt with records. The home removes doubt with a brief inspection and a simple choice. None of this insists on alarm. The classification attached to this notice is measured. The scope is defined. The remedy is straightforward. You do not need to learn a new vocabulary to manage it. You need a calm moment, a steady eye, and the willingness to put safety ahead of speed. That is how a recall remains a health measure, not a panic machine. If you care for someone whose defenses are not what they used to be, the calculus tightens. For that family, certainty is kindness. A pint that aligns with the named date is not a debate. It is an easy decision that protects a breakfast a day a week. You will not spend worrying about what was in the glass. A refund replaces the product. Nothing replaces peace of mind. So the ritual continues, altered by attention rather than fear. The shelf will refill. The process will adapt. The bulletin will live online for anyone who needs it later. And when the kitchen grows quiet tomorrow, the light will catch the curve of a bottle the way it always has. You will check the code, you will know where you stand, and the cereal will not have to wait. 4. Wawa Apple and Peanut Butter Dipper. 3 summers ago, on a warm afternoon, a parent slid open a lunchbox and found the Easy Choice crisp apple slices and a tidy cup of peanut butter tucked into a clear tray. It looked wholesome, it traveled well, and it felt like a small win between errands. That was the promise of the Dipper Pack on countless snack aisles, simple, portable, trusted. Earlier that year, the promise met a statewide headline. A national peanut butter maker announced a voluntary recall tied to suspected salmonella in select lots, and the ripple did not stop at one brand's label. Wawa's Apple and Peanut Butter Dipper, which used that supplier's spread, entered the removal list. Store teams began pulling units. Notices went up. Pantry routines paused. Beyond Wawa's walls, the event revealed how widely a single ingredient can travel. One processing facility supplies many storefronts, many packages, many names. A batch made on a particular day at a particular hour can surface inside branded jars, store labels, and ready-to-eat snack packs. The jars tell one story, the dipper tells another. The underlying thread is the same, a shared input that binds them together long before they sit on different shelves. By extension, traceability becomes the quiet hero. Each cup of peanut butter in a Dipper Pack is tied to a lot, and that lot is tied to a timestamp, and that timestamp leads back to a specific run at an upstream plant. When a sample turns up, suspect investigators do not chase rumors. They chase codes. A distributor runs a report. A warehouse freezes release. A store scans barcodes and clears a section. The choreography is not flashy. It is a chain of tidy steps designed to pull the right items and leave the rest alone. Across supply lines, the practical impact lands where families live. A snack that used to bridge the gap between classes or shifts suddenly prompts a label check. Parents read the fine print on the dip cup. College students flip the package to match dates. Commuters stop at the service counter and ask whether their purchase is part of the notice. Most of the time, the answer is reassuring. Sometimes it is not, and the refund is quick. Speed matters, but clarity matters more. Earlier that year, news outlets emphasized a useful point that still holds: an upstream recall can change what appears on a downstream shelf without any wrongdoing by the retailer. Wawa did not create the hazard. Wawa responded to the hazard by removing products that shared a lot history with the implicated brand. That distinction is not trivial. It is the difference between blame and responsibility, and in food, safety responsibility moves faster than blame. Beyond Wawa's walls, the lesson widened into a map. Distribution networks do not care about state borders. They care about routes and hubs. A pallet may leave a plant in one state, reach a cross-dock in another, and land in several counties before midday. That is why recall notices name ranges of states and date codes rather than a single store. It is not vagueness. It is an honest mirror of how goods move. By extension, the consumer playbook stays mercifully short. Match the product name, confirm the size, find the lot or date window. If it aligns, do not eat it. Bring it back or discard it. That is it. No speculation, no second-guessing the science. The science already happened in the lab, in the logs, and in the investigative steps that narrowed the scope to a specific set of units. Across supply lines, language matters. Words like voluntary out of an abundance of caution or select lots can read like public relations padding, yet they guard accuracy. Voluntary means the company initiated the removal rather than waiting for an enforcement order. Select lots means the window is defined, not limitless. Abundance of caution means the threshold for acting is deliberately low when vulnerable people could be harmed. Clear phrasing helps the store act, the press report, and the shopper decide. In hindsight, the 2022 event sits in memory as a modest story that carried a larger pattern. A small dip cup in a lunchbox becomes a case study in the network effect of ingredients. The recall did not ask families to fear every snack. It asked them to verify a detail and make a calm choice. Many did, and the item returned to circulation once the chain cleared. Through those links, trust is not a billboard claim, it is a behavior. The supplier isolates affected lots. The retailer clears shelves and communicates. The shopper checks the date and follows through. Each step narrows uncertainty. Each step lowers risk. When the steps are done well, the absence of illness becomes the headline that never prints. Two facts keep the lesson grounded. First, a shared ingredient can place different brands on the same safety path. Second, lot codes carry more power than logos when a decision needs to be made at home. Contamination does not read packaging. It follows the route of supply. 5. Wawa Thai-style chicken mango salad. Nearly 10 years ago, a smaller recall passed quietly through a Florida warehouse in a few store coolers. The product sounded bright Thai-style chicken mango salad, an 11-ounce ready-to-eat tray with tropical sweetness and lean protein, meant to make weekday meals easier. It wasn't about contamination or illness. It was about words, or rather the absence of them. At the time, inspectors discovered that several packages carried incomplete labels. 2 allergens, wheat and sesame, had been used but not declared. The oversight involved barely 200 trays, each stamped with a sell-by date of May 28, 2016. On spreadsheets, that number looked insignificant. For a person with a sesame allergy, it wasn't. A missing line of text can decide whether dinner feels safe or ends in a hospital. In those years, labeling mistakes often hid inside ordinary paperwork. A supplier might swap an ingredient mid-run. A data file might lag behind an updated recipe. A printer could reissue an outdated design during an overnight change. None of that looks dangerous in a facility. Yet on the label, every omission turns into a silent hazard. Gradually, moments like this reshaped company culture. Teams began reviewing formulation sheets with more eyes. Allergen matrices were rebuilt to flag even trace cross-contact. New label templates required dual approval before printing. Quality managers added one final ritual: hold a finished package to the light and trace the allergen list by hand. Progress doesn't shout. It's the sound of someone reading slowly to be sure. Later, regulators reinforced that mindset. Training modules started putting undeclared allergens beside microbial hazards in priority lists. Verification steps turned from polite requests into mandatory checkpoints. The fix didn't end when the recall closed. It lived on in the updated templates, reissued manuals, and a habit of checking twice. Each small correction added one thread to a larger fabric of accountability. Meanwhile, allergen awareness among consumers was changing too. Parents learned to read ingredients with precision. Cafeteria workers double-checked their stock. Even quick service counters began marking menus with icons that weren't there before. The line between safety and negligence had become clearer, and that clarity came directly from past mistakes such as this one. Beyond the plant floor, the language of communication matured. Notices grew sharper. Instead of legal phrases, they spoke in plain instructions. If you are sensitive to wheat or sesame, do not consume this product. Short, factual, and empathetic. No panic, no excuse, just a promise to keep people informed without drama. Eventually, packaging design followed suit. Fonts grew bolder. Allergen lines moved to consistent corners of the label. Ingredients avoided nested parentheses that could hide risks behind commas. The new approach wasn't cosmetic, it was moral. Honesty printed in small type still counts as honesty. Even now, the case stands as quiet proof that safety evolves through paperwork as much as technology. Machines can pasteurize, cool, and seal, but only a person can notice that one word missing in a list might hurt someone else. Compliance doesn't exist to satisfy inspectors. It exists to protect strangers. To this day, the Thai-style chicken mango salad recall remains a modest entry in Wawa's record, yet its meaning endures. Not every recall warns of contamination. Some recall integrity itself. Each time a label gains one more word of accuracy, the system grows slightly cleaner and the next meal becomes easier to trust. Wawa's story through these recalls isn't one of panic, it's one of growth. From lemonade to milk, from snack packs to salads, every incident drew the same quiet lesson: safety is a living promise, not a corporate slogan. Each recall peeled back another layer of how a company earns trust, not by being flawless, but by being accountable. The brand learned to act faster, label clearer, and communicate louder when it mattered most. Every barcode scanned, every notice posted, every corrected line of print became part of a larger rhythm, one where vigilance replaces complacency. In the end, Wawa's path shows what responsible transparency looks like in real time. No hiding, no denial, just the steady courage to make things right. That's the modern definition of trust, not perfection, but persistence in protecting those who never even see the factory floor.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage segregation. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.